balloon tits, as she's referred to as. Like, that's part of her character, but in the world it's justified. She has backstory for how it's justified, and while I'm not going to say, like, you don't get a gold star here, you don't deserve violent criticism over this character. I do feel that if you're justifying, it's more that you're justifying the situation. I just find that when they sexualize a character, it's often like, this character has huge boobs, so this doesn't, and this one doesn't, so now you can't criticize us. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like, again, like Ivy, which seems to be from Soul Calibur, who seems to be reaching critical mass of boob. If I had to defend her, if somebody asked me a question about her on Tumblr, that would be one of the ones I would skip. Partially because I don't know the context of that character, and partially because it does seem to be she's just losing clothes and gaining fat in her chest. Some feminists, however, argue the exact opposite, that it's fine to occasionally sexualize. Are you getting tired? Of course I'm getting tired. We may just stop. Again, I should... Yes. Lola's saying she's going to try to contact Indiegogo directly. I'm going to say yes. I want to make sure, like, people, like, don't, when I'm not speaking, people get scared. And the good thing about Tumblr was, like, everybody was speaking at the same time, and they couldn't hear that I was listening. So I think this is a better place to do it, and everybody's actually getting to talk about their feminist issues. Like, I do want part of the story to be that some jackass managed to talk about feminism on Twitch for 3.5 hours. Holy fuck, Twitch. Twitch must, again, when Twitch appears to be the largest discussion board on feminism in game, you know the universe has changed. Personally, I have no problem with the character has big boobs for no reason, more or less than because that's how actual people are. All right, I'm going to address that question because you actually have a really valid point, and this goes in all different body types. And I think that, yes, that both men and women tend to demonize people that have sexual characteristics that they just inherited. And I do think that he's actually making a really, really valid point. And it's not that if you had, and I really wish there was actually more characters that had large breasts that weren't, like, it was part of their character and they weren't being sexualized for them. Like, this was just part of it. In the same way that you can have short girls who, you know, it's the same way that you can have short girls that don't act child who are really tough, and the inverse. You can have tall girls that are weak. You wondering what the game, what happens next? Basically, once we know the game is funded and once we determine the budget, we're going to work with the creator. We're going to ask the community what they want. We're going to work with Autobotica, and we're going to form a plan. And I'm sorry to say, like, that is the most important part, and the part that'll probably be the less cool for everyone because it'll be a lot of waiting. Once that happens, we'll start to move into coding so we can have a really crappy working prototype so people can see it and make comments. For those who work in game development, that will suck. And if you only want to see the game when it's really good, it's like if you only want to see women when they've got makeup on, don't touch the game at that point. Going to suck balls. It will get better over time, and we'll work with you guys to advance it. When I say advance it, like, we'll do polls and that stuff and try to work with you guys. I want to explain something to you, is that inevitably speaking, this is an indie game. This is a small game. This will not be something that we can have tons of voiceover work. If you guys want to do voiceover work and make your own, we support you, and we set that up. But like one of the lines of like, because it says that we can overrule the creator. It was like one of the girls was 15 and she's like, Justin Bieber would be great for the soundtrack. And it's like, yeah, I'm not taking. I've a 15-year-old girl is not overruling me on game development. With makeup, suck balls. This is getting better and better. Why don't you have a live stream on YouTube? The main reason we don't have a live stream on YouTube is we authorize the Fine Young Capitalists are like our YouTube account is authorized under Google uh, like Google Business, and the YouTube option or the Google Hangout option for some unknown reason is not authorized, so we can't get it to work. And when we made a new account, YouTube was like, "We have to know who you are. Can you put in like your number?" And we'd already put it in for the other account, and they're like, "You can't be authorized." And I was just like, I am too old to understand like new technology. And it's been the funniest thing. But if there's anything over this conversation, what it needs to be is YouTube just needs to be a button that's like, old people, press this and have people go to the link and they can hear you. Oh, it's still gonna happen. Arguably speaking, even if for some unknown reason, like all the money dissolved, we would still go through a grant and we'd still do it with something like the OMDC, which is the Ontario Media Development Corporation. We would deal with it through other means. And the reason we're dealing with it is simply because there is enough interest in it. Like, keep in mind, like, most people don't even know what a Canadian production is. And a lot of our feedback is internationally. So this is actually a really good way to get people involved. I sound like I'm 19. This is awesome. Um, yeah. Do you have yeah, we're probably going to meet later because I said that I'd talk with Tumblr in action. Um, you'll find though, I don't like I really don't like to bring up individual people because it gives them more power. And I only do it when I have to. And these are like large cultural things. They aren't one woman. And like the internet likes to think that if we like fight one woman enough, then it'll disappear. Like the whole issue will disappear. But what we're supposed to be talking about, mundane Matt, is just how this issue does, but more importantly, how many positive outcomes that have come from it and how it's changed the dialogue. And yeah, that who will not be named will probably be mentioned, but I'm probably going to end up defending her a bit and then get V telling me I'm horrible. And again, that's something that I got to do under that whole Batman bullshit of like not who they want but who they need. Yes. Gee, these out of context quotes keep getting better and better. I don't like people with more power than me. Would you ever publish a game with an anti-social justice word? Or mount a police regime? Would I ever mount a game? I think we're already mounting a game with an anti-social justice warrior slant. Again, I think that it's just ignorance and lack of education, and I like not knowing what they want, trying to monetize themselves, and people who are very scared about either being found out about what they really are, or like are so unsure of themselves that they dedicate it to the movement. And I think that honestly, even doing a game about a character that's going through that would be such a good experience as like again, it would be a narrative game. If you could fight if you somebody could add fighting zombies to that, that would be amazing. But it's important to it's important to understand that most people, when they are like a warrior, when they hate you, like, because people, that's the thing, like people like literally one of the posts that keeps coming up is the only thing you need to know about the Fine Young Capitalists, and it's our post that 4chan is supporting us. And it's like, hey, there's a lot of like, that's a really interesting point. Where are you getting a play where you play as Vivian? I think that that'll probably happen as a mod for an existing game. Like people will do that, and I really support independent developers or people who are getting their name out there to use that sort of draft, and even to make a game in like RPG Maker that's a narrative or something like that would be wonderful. To just like make the game that explains what it's like to be a social justice warrior and why you're against it. And I think that like that would be a good experience. Like there was a game that was made by a social justice warrior that was like where it was simulating being a woman, and basically what no matter what you did you got horribly harassed, and it was like game over. So no matter what you wore, no matter what you did, someone would call you a slut. And it's like that's not really a positive message. Inevitably speaking, there are people that support you and dislike you in all shapes of life, and it's really finding those people. Like one of one of my lines is like I never really seem to get into like being a misogynist in real life that I get the punch in the face. Like I was expecting like at some point in my life to have some guy act completely out of context in the situation, and just for me at one point in my life to be justified in like violent retribution. That has never happened. That has never happened. And I feel that when you like do the story, like that's how it's happening. That's happening all the time. And that it's like that. Then it's like when men like come and they're like, well, what's the issue? It's like, why isn't your ass we went to this area and your ass wasn't grabbed at all. Like maybe you're lying about all these other issues. I feel if you only focus on these really super powerful points, then you just lose everything. Anti-social justice. Thinking that. Yeah. So are people thinking that social justice work brought the IGG down or what? Yeah. People. There will be a lot of conspiracy theories. I know already people think that we did it on purpose, that social justice warriors did it, and that there's elite hacking group that did it. Neither of that is true. There's probably a guy in Romania who's laughing his ass off. And to you, I salute you. May we meet in hell. Okay, yes, Phoenix. Shapes of Life, anti-social listening gist. These other points. My game of strategy informs you to perform eugenics to improve the population. uh, the visual novels. It deals with relationships very well. That's my thing. I'm gonna look it up simply because I didn't actually see it, and I'm gonna look it up. But I just find that like I've seen a lot of the work that 4chan has generated, and generally speaking, it's like my thing about it is that if the idea is bad, generally speaking, it doesn't get enough encouragement to actually happen. And most of the stuff that survives the whole process of like these collaborative environments is actually made by people who believe so much in the project that they're doing it for no other reason. Like it is the purest form of art. It is done for neither profit or fame. Okay. I think what is going on is like literally speaking, we don't feel like this issue is going to be resolved, and we have tons of mail to go through. So I'm gonna take one or two questions, spam chat, and then I'll let it go. And I'd like to thank this Twitch channel, which is apparently Gen Games, who took the time to actually play the whole time. And I really want to appreciate that. And I do appreciate let's get up his name, to Zach, who actually like really saved us and started the whole thing. I'm sorry we didn't pull him in. I really he couldn't watch this. He couldn't make sure the stream was running, and I really appreciate him saving us, and I really appreciate people appreciating it. Okay, so what did I do in Hate Man? Okay. So 4chan is the purest form of autism. Okay, I'll reference that quickly. Uh, Autism's now a spectrum, which means that everybody's on it. Some people just have more social disability than others. Oh, it's still Matt. It's around a lot, and they already posted it on Facebook. My last name is really exotic, and my big issue is people keep randomly posting my phone number around, and I would prefer not to get calls because believe it or not, like whenever I get a call, it is very important, and people know that if they get a call from me, it's very important. So I just don't want to like lose that because this is still Defiant Capitals is still my firm production, but there are other productions that I just need to be able to be sucked up for. Yes, everyone has autism. Thank you for that. Uh, how are you dealing with social justice backlash when they're reviving with you? Why don't I just talk about the transition issue and why we give a huge fuck about it? So the original, like, why we say we've always had the same policy and why there seems to be this issue on it has to do with the word transition. Now, it's important to understand that not only is gender fluid, but like right now, transgender rights and how they want to be represented is really fluid. I'll tell this story because I'm sure V and the rest of you will find it amusing. We went to 501 Church, which is a basically a community center for LGBT individuals, and we said like we're doing this contest. We know because it's about video games, some people are going to lie about it. How can we say like how can we be inclusive to everybody but make sure that people aren't lying about it? And the guy who I remember, he was particularly short but particularly bulky, was like, well, what if I identified as a woman? And I looked at him and I was like, well, here's an application form. And then he literally like took the application form. He looked at me and he was like, no, I don't identify as a woman. I'm just making a point. And looked at him for a second and I said, yes, this is exactly the issue that we are dealing with. And he was like, it was like the most like catch 22 I've ever seen someone in. Like, oh my God, was I just transphobic in the middle of the trans community center? So we talked with a lot of people, and the main point was that they should be the arbiter of it, but there should be a time limit. Like they shouldn't be able to change it just to enter the contest. So it always said self-identified as a woman, and there was one qualifier that said that you had to transition. Now the problem is that literally speaking, this has to do with refugees and everything else, but it's very important that transition be never defined as having a sex change because not everybody can afford it. Not every country allows it. And it's important that if gender is fluid and people's opinion of gender to be fluid, for them to be allowed to actually do it. So the majority of our criticism comes from people who did not understand this issue and understood trans rights, and it put us into like one of the reasons why we didn't like say you're oppressing people is A, they wouldn't believe it, but be a lot of the people in it, like it would, like, they were social justice warriors. This was a significant, like, some of them are active in the movement, and we didn't want to have the movement look like complete idiots. We stand by that decision, and we understand why, like, inevitably speaking, we get Tumblrites explaining to us that we're wrong, and that somehow GLAD is wrong, and the Transgender Rights Association is wrong, and all of these sort of things. But the pure fact of the matter is Tumblr doesn't outrank these organizations. And when people's lives actually matter on the definition of words, we would strongly prefer to use the words that are more inclusive. Okay. Um, attached. Yeah, being allowed to be attached to someone's professional crowds. No colors anymore. Okay. Hey, do you have any emails with game journalists? Okay, so the Rebel Jam thing. So I'll actually do this as the last point, and so I can address it here because everybody is asking about it. Um, a lot of okay, so we've got criticism before what we'll call the Twitter storm, uh, before Rebel Jam, after Rebel Jam, uh, da 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 da. We will not release the emails of anyone because, like, you guys are way too good at doing information, but it's like one or two people, like, we respect, and we, like, listened to their talk and we said this talk was good. They just had no idea what it was about, and they were just listening to other people. So we find that the journalists that were especially on the ones that, like, mentioned Rebel Jam or mentioned that we should instead encourage Rebel Jam, were journalists that weren't in major publications and had the least number of experience, and were mostly, I feel, trying to write a hit piece that we weren't giving them enough information for. Like, there were people who did seem to engage as if they could write a hit piece, and just it fell. So we won't identify those individuals, but it wasn't major people. Our criticism, because I did strongly criticism Rebel Jam, is only that they were taking money without a date or a location. One of the things that I tell people, and I've done it in an interview, and I think the interview is online, so if I repeat it here, is that I actually contacted Zoe. We did it through my sister, but we actually, like, cause a company was asking us about doing a television show about making games because of this fucking contest, and how we wanted to move the Fine Young Capitalists into a different monetization scheme because we didn't think that we would succeed on Indiegogo. We actually, like, asked her to be involved. Like, we said, could you consult? And I didn't give my name. We didn't mention the Fine Young Capitalist, but I gave my sister's name. I gave the major female leader who was kind of on board, and I gave the production company name. So I thought that was enough, and she didn't engage. And she probably still, there are many reasons why she couldn't engage. But my thing is like, I would actually love Rebel Jam to happen. When Rebel Jam, like, was envisioned, it was envisioned as, like, a counter reaction to what happened when Polaris had their game jam, which I would talk to in greater length than I've already talked to today. But a lot of people, like, signed on to it, like, said that they would support it no matter what. And, like, the never you should never make very emotional, you should never make important decisions during an emotional moment. And it's not that I don't know if it was done right. I just feel uh, that the community deserved to know what was going on. And honestly speaking, as I said before, I think like the time frames are just too soon, so we won't be able to raise like money through the systems that I was suggesting for Rebel Jam. But if they do it next year or something, we would talk to them about how you would engage with the government. Yeah, I'm still answering questions, but I think that's my last one. So unless there's like a huge one that some people want me to ask, I'm going to just deal with emails. Okay? Oh, okay. And last question: what would we do for your eugenics games? That's horrible. Um, Here's the thing. Inevitably speaking, I don't make my money off nonprofit. I make my money off profit. This isn't an open call, and you should really understand what it means to protect your idea, but protect your idea and feel free when we're not in the middle of all of this bullshit to send it to me. And I might actually tell you this is how you could get some help, especially if you're in Canada. But if it's like something that I'm just like, this is mind blowingly good, we could make it for money. And I would happily do that. But keep in mind that it's like making a game is like giving birth, and it's not something that you do in 6 months. Like there was a lot of prep to even get this level. Uh, it would take us years, and that's just the dedication you have to be. So I'll let you go. We're just gonna figure out what happened, and I'm going to do it. So thank you all. Somebody should dump this, and I gotta figure out the social networks, how I'm an evil social networking person. See ya.